of September. It's the Ides of September. You know, like remember the ancient Roman play about
Ides of March.
The Ides of March, and it talks about tu Brute, when Brutus actually stabbed the Caesar. We're now at the Ides of September, and I see the dissolution, the melting. I remember the movie The Wizard of Oz, where the bucket of water was thrown on the Wicked Witch of the West, and she can withstand water because it calls her to melting. Then between her health issues and the fact she's not on the campaign trail for the last 3 days, she's absent so many days in August, and the only days when she was out there was actually to try to get money to get the vote out. The only thing she does is attack Trump, saying he's not competent, and he's proving over and over again he's presidential. And she cannot defend her own record, and she can't defend her own record. She can't defend Obama, and certainly can't defend the economy. So what does she have? If you vote for me, you'll get more of the same, only worse. You'll have open borders, terrorism, and economic devastation. Have a nice day. I'm of the demonic class of the global overlords, and I could care a rat's behind whether or not other people get prosecuted by the FBI and Department of Justice. I'm Hillary, and I'm above the law. Boy, it's disgusting when she calls us deplorables. I'd like to say she's a disgustingable. We may be deplorable, but you know that? When you have demons deploring you, it means you must be on the right side.
It has been 285 days since Hillary Clinton has had a proper press conference. Now, she's got a war chest of $2.5 billion.
She's got less than 60 days to spend it, so I don't see how that many attack ads are going to do anything, but at a certain point, it's what's called overkill to the point where it's going to actually propel Trump forward.
I'll bet you they don't spend it all, because if there's one common theme to Hillary and Bill Clinton, the Bonnie and Clyde of American politics, the two biggest Mary crooks in American political history. If there's one common theme, it's they milk politics for all the money they can get. And the play for pay, in other words, bribery, that you saw in the emails and in Hillary's selling of favors and with the Clinton Foundation when she was Secretary of State, big bucks. We're talking probably $1 billion have flown into their foundation. Now that's a lot of beer and pizza, $1 billion with a B, and it's all based on bribery. And you can call it, no, it's not that. Yeah, yes, it is. It's just bribery. It's you want something from the State Department or the President or with Senator Hillary when she was senator. Well, you give big bucks, hundreds of thousands, millions, and the sky will open and you will get what you want. Now, I don't claim to be an expert on English. My wife used to say sometimes she thought English was my second language, but I think I'm right. I think most people would call that bribery.
Yeah,
and that's what Hillary and Bill is all about.
We're getting a lot of scratchiness here. I don't know if your phone lines are bad, Tim, but we need to reconnect you because you're breaking up. I don't know if your phone company needs to get their act together, I think, because this happens before. We'll be back in a minute with Tim. Looking at Tim's latest Europe business with 1s.blogspot.com, we have the Syrian truce, Russian U.S. government failing to abide, the U.S. government failing to abide by the deal. Yep, the Obama administration lied to you. Don't feel bad. They lied to the American public all the time. Russia has accused the United States of failing to fulfill its obligations under the truce. A defense minister's statement said Washington was using a verbal curtain to hide its reluctance to rein in the rebel groups it supports. So, Tim, let's talk about this lack of compliance of the so-called rebel groups under the Americans and their agreement with Russia. This agreement is falling apart even before it kind of solidifies, isn't it?
Well, you know what I said on my blog this morning, I linked a story about this. Russia says U.S. government failing to, adhere to their agreements. I said, look, don't feel bad. The Obama administration lied to you, but they lie to us all the time, the American people, constantly.
I call it the liocracy, I call it. Instead of democracy, I call it the liocracy, or the non-transparent dictatorship by morons and demonic entities.
Well, white is black, black is white. Everything is upside down. Everything's a lie. And if they screw up, they tell you the truth. But that's very, very rare, and that's purely by accident. We will see how this Syrian war truce plays out. I haven't been doing much predicting about it. I'm trying to remain hopeful it will be good, but I don't see how it will be, to be honest with you. The bottom line is Israel, the United States, and the globalist-controlled West, and that doesn't include everybody in NATO, but many of the NATO countries, they want a regime change. They want the president of Syria, Assad, who was overwhelmingly elected in what most people consider to be a fair and open election. They want him tossed out and a puppet regime put in, and Syria probably broken apart. Now, where the hell do we get off going around the world doing that kind of stuff? The United States government and its economic resources and the blood of its soldiers is being used by the Israelis and the globalists, the Khazarian mafia, to act as their enforcement arm, to stir up trouble. We need to tell them to go to hell.
Yeah, and the thing is, we have now a situation where since 9/11, we've had what I call the economic military phase, which is regime change phase. Since 9/11, the very first thing we did was go to Iraq when there was no evidence, and we have this liar, Colin Powell, I call him Colin Bowell because he's full of SHI, that he actually made the statement that they had weapons of mass destruction and took out videos, in particular models that show that they had these trucks with this weapons of mass destruction in them.
Those trucks were weather balloon trucks, by the way.
Right, and so he brought out this garbage, which is a patent lie, and the guy should have been sent to prison. And now, of course, the latest emails, at least he tells the truth in his personal emails, he says that Hillary Clinton's health was a concern even as well as a couple of years ago. And then Hillary doesn't want to respond. I don't want to respond to personal emails, she says. Even if you get somebody who's so-called your ally is concerned, I guarantee you the Democrats are running around like chickens with their heads cut off, or hamsters when a big dog gets in the room. It's craziness.
Well, she was on her campaign plane today, or at least someone that looks like her was, and we're going to have to be watching very closely to see that they haven't slipped in one of their doubles.
Well, I can tell you right now,
more than one.
What I've seen so far is medically, you don't recover from the kind of pneumonia she's had, coughing her head off, in 2 to 3 days. Number two, they brought her a body double immediately from this house, and we found out that the home is actually a registered medical facility, this so-called apartment for Chelsea Clinton. It's not a home. It's actually
been treating people with, wait for the drum roll, what would it be? Something maybe Hillary has? Well, I don't know. Let's see. What would we call it? Actually, my mind just went blank.
You need my Calm Mind Brain Mag, Cognition Plus, and Brain Power. At least the brain
I got
power.
up real early this morning and did a lot of work around the house, and I'm tired. Not Alzheimer's.
No, we call it Alzheimer's.
Thank you very much. Huntington's chorea. No. What do you call? What she got?
Geopolitical. What you have today is geopolitical constipation.
Yeah, I don't have my glasses on, so it's hard to read my notes.
So anyway, with Hillary, what's going on with her right now? She's in disaster mode.
She's supposedly making a campaign appearance, and she says she'll talk to the media a little bit more in detail.
Well, they better have it at a good distance so that if she's 6 inches shorter and 60 pounds lighter, remember there's Teresa Barnwell.
Parkinson's disease is what I was trying to say. I had a brain fart there. Sorry about that. But, yeah. Look, this lady is sick. This lady is dying. She walked out, well, let's see, the first lie we were told is she was overheated. Well, it was 79 degrees and low humidity. But she had sunglasses on.
I'll tell you what the problem
sunglasses to prevent.
She was feeling the heat because we've been praying for her for grace, and she's rejected grace. She was feeling the heat of God, ready to send her to the place of destruction. So she's going to a better place if you're a demon.
Yeah. Then the second
that's why her
lie
husband says that she's working like a demon. I mean, one of the articles you have
that's right. Yeah.
Works like a demon. I'm thinking, Bill, you're not supposed to say that, even if you polish your horns in the morning.
Well, Bill is losing it too. I mean, you can't do cocaine for probably 30 or 40 years without, it having a big effect. I mean, I had a brain fart a second ago. I couldn't remember. When you're on the air and hundreds of thousands of people are listening, sometimes
we just need to get you more Nutrimeds so we can rev you up there, Tim. We got to keep you active 30 years from now so we can keep swatting off these bad political decisions.
I've been up doing a lot of work around here I'm tired. But anyway, the second lie they told, of course, was, well, no, we misspoke. It wasn't overheating. It was pneumonia, and she was keeping it to herself. Okay, so now it's pneumonia. But Bill yesterday said at a rally where he was standing in for her, she had the flu. And then he said, oh, I misspoke when I said that. Yeah, there's a lot of misspoking going on, I'll tell you. Walking pneumonia, as you well know, you don't, 1 minute pass out. Very few people actually pass out like she did from walking pneumonia. But then an hour or two later, you're practically dancing in the street because you recovered. Of course, she was also dancing in the street with a younger-looking face. The hairline was different. The ring finger was different. A few other things. She was 50 pounds lighter. But it was a miraculous recovery, is all we can say. And if you believe that, well, there's a bridge in Brooklyn we can sell you. The point is that these people don't know how to tell the truth. As Christ said of Lucifer, the truth is not in him, and the truth is certainly not in these people. They have utter contempt for the American population.
Yeah, but I think that contempt on the comments, the two reasons why her polls are dropping are, one, she called at least a quarter of the U.S. population deplorables, because at least half of the supporters of Donald Trump are about a quarter of the population, which means she deplores and says that we should not even be considered Americans. And then, of course, Trump is smart enough to bring on a lot of people of black and other colors and different walks of life, and would say we're part of the deplorables that Hillary Clinton is accusing us of being deplorable. And they make it a bit of a joke, because they're saying, this person is so disgusting, she doesn't even want to think that the support are valid, patriotic Americans that want to have some autonomy, a closed border, a strong military, health care for everybody where co-pays and death panels don't occur, and they don't have an ICD-9 code for a guillotine as one of the medical treatments. I guess, you can just see yourself, you go into a doctor's office and you say, doctor, I've got a headache. He said, I have a treatment for you. Here's the ICD-9 code. Go into the next room and you'll hear people screaming as the blade drops.
But you won't have a headache anymore.
No, because you won't have a head. That solves the problem.
Minor little side effects.
Side effects.
Room temperature. Yeah.
But you know what? The thing is, death panels are basically just, I call, certified postnatal abortion. Let's just call it what it is. The smirking ass Obama. Basically, it's so disgusting.
80-year-old lady is whacked. Yeah, she had an 80-year post-abortion abortion.
I can't force myself. I don't have enough geopolitical anti-nauseants to watch Obama saying anything on television. The man is so disgusting to me, so reprehensible. And Hillary, with her looking back and forth like some kind of, giant snake, female snake. The thing is,
I have to clean this up for the air, but one of the artwork that my guy in Canada sent me, it's a person in actually showing a picture of Obama, but the caption reads, I would rather be in a telephone booth with a wildcat and try to shove a wet noodle up its, let's say, rectum than listen to another Obama speech. And it paints a hell of a picture in your mind, but the point is, Obama is a disgusting, manipulative jerk. When I think of Obama, I think of the story that people that knew him when he was in high school. He would bum cigarettes off people, and He, of course, back then he was a transvestite and very openly gay. And he would go up to people and he would, like he was befriending them, and he would get them to give him a cigarette. And he would light it up and he would blow smoke in their face and turn around and walk right off. Not say a word to him, no thank you or anything. That's the type of person Barack Obama is, or what other his name is, where other he was born, who other his daddy and mommy are. Every photo of him...
We know what his official name is, Barry Soetoro, the student of a madrasa in Malaysia, born in Kenya, pseudo birth certificatized. Remember, if you know how they would do it in Hawaii, they just wrote it up postnatally and then said he was born there. When he applied to Occidental University College in California as a foreign student and got paid. When he went to Columbia, it was a Saudi billionaire that paid for his so-called tuition. He disappeared off the radar, even though he was in the so-called legal club there at Columbia, and no one can recall that the man existed there. So whatever his degree in, and then he pretended to be some kind of law professor in constitutional law, and no one can remember him. He didn't write any remarkable articles.
Well,
have any
he
public
was
speaking.
Probably working for the CIA and was in Afghanistan at the time.
That's what we have.
His family, at least 2 generations before him, were CIA.
You're kidding. Are you kidding me? I'm just kidding.
No, I wish I were. I'll tell you, every photo of him from infancy through, roughly law school has been photoshopped. Now, I've got some boxes around here going back 60-some years when I was a kid. Myself, my brother, my sister, parents, grandparents, so forth. And I don't think any of them were photoshopped.
You saw the information about this Dr. Milton Wolfe, who made the comments about Hillary's health, and recently there's
a distant cousin of Obama, by the way, a second cousin once removed. But and you're the physician, but it struck me as being right on target. That basically what the Obama administration, the letter from the doctor she released, was 1, pure BS, and 2, wasn't even written in a proper medical format. That she had non-contagious bacterial pneumonia, and that's not a standard.
And let's look at a few of the details here, because I'm going to redo with this new information that's coming out another iteration. I got about almost 2,500 hits from YouTube alone on the one I put out 2.5 weeks ago. So here's the first thing. She had a non-contrast CT scan with a calcium score of her arteries because there's a family history of heart disease. And then it talks about the scan revealed a small right middle and then cuts it off, which suggests that, in fact, there's no such thing as a CTA calcium score. A CT calcium score study of the coronary arteries must be non-contrast. So, obviously the words that Lisa Bardak are using show she's really a medical idiot. And then, of course, if you give contrast, then the coronary calcifications would be masked by the contrast in the arteries. So Hillary's doctor, who says Hillary's in excellent health, just claimed that Hillary had an imaging study that doesn't exist. Oops. This is really disturbing. We've got a lying human piece of medical garbage in Lisa Bardak, who's not disclosing to the public, because if you have someone under control of the nuclear... Let me finish, okay? Let me finish. If you have someone who is in control of the nuclear button and an international policy that's proven in the past she brings about war footings, this is crazy that someone that's in a dementing or pre-dementing condition with serious heart disease and lung disease and probable end-stage Parkinson's is running for office.
Disbarred.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, she should be... No, not disbarred. She should be flogged. Medical flogging is much better.
Flogged?
Flogged with stethoscopes. Well, Tim, there's 2 reasons why Hillary Clinton has not passed on after her pneumonia spell, which is going to be hard to validate because this new body double, at least there's one, with Teresa Barnwell. The 2 reasons are, number 1, her clone's not ready, like the boys from Brazil, and her apartment in hell's not ready.
Insightful. Well, we know that Teresa Barnwell supposedly has a alibi for the 911 event.
And she said she was on the West Coast, and she was in California at the time, but I don't believe that. Or there's another body double besides her.
Hitler had 2 or 3, and many people. Stalin had 1 or 2. Saddam Hussein had more than one. He had several.
I heard he had up to six. He had up to six, and one of them was the one that they hung, that his wife walked into the room and looked at this guy and said, "This is not my husband. He's like 6 inches shorter with crooked teeth." Saddam was taller, had perfectly straight teeth.
Yeah. Well, he had 100, a little over 100 palaces that cost many millions each. And I think he could afford dental work. The guy that they dug up out of this hole and said it was Saddam Hussein with a beard, I figured it out before I read it, and because I looked at his teeth and I thought, he has really bad teeth. And then I found some old pictures, and Saddam Hussein had perfect teeth. And I thought, okay. Well, come to find out, the real guy and the double, one of them had an overbite, the other had an underbite, and that's why they kept the beard on him. There are, everybody, they say, has a, what's the word, doppelganger or something like that?
Doppelganger.
A double. Huh?
Doppelganger.
Yeah.
Doppelganger.
Actually, there's this old painting in Italy of it's from, I don't know, the 1500s, something like that. And there's a painting of somebody, and he looks identical to Vladimir Putin. So, there are doubles out there, and particularly with a little cosmetic surgery and the right wigs and so forth, you can get pretty close. Now, what they did on 911, they kind of panicked. They probably have a double standing by with the right clothes and so forth. To match, but they used the double in a situation where it was too close. Too close. You want to use the double, from a distance.
Exactly. Now,
and the reason that they said, by the way, in the so-called medical letter from Hillary's doctor, she had non-contagious pneumonia, bacterial pneumonia. The reason they used that made-up term was because immediately many people picked up on the fact here she has pneumonia and she's walking around with her hands on and petting and so forth, this little girl. So isn't she risking contaminating this child?
Well, we haven't started the flu. We have started this flu epidemic, and this fall is likely to be bad because a lot of the flus are caused by recombinant vaccines that are actually not dead. They're attenuated, so they're going to cause new flu epidemics now or in the future that are going to be recombinant and be more aggressive. I want to mention something here that's up Trump's alley. Ford is moving all its U.S. small car production to Mexico, and Trump slams them. Damn good, Trump, to slam it. Why does Ford think they're going to pull off? Because President Trump, and I'm addressing now as not Donald, but President Donald Trump, and if you actually take the Celtic of Donald Trump, it means the ruler of the world. That's what it means, the Donald Trump. Okay? So God is basically bringing on a world ruler of the primary and the only superpower on earth, not Russia or China. They might try to pretend they are. They're fools. And once America gets its act together, controls its border, builds up its military, gets its currency under control, and stops this crazy debt by cutting fraud and abuse, and people say, there's no fraud and abuse in Washington, D.C. I said, How long have you been on the take? I was watching the news media today, and I think it was Brett Hume was saying, we dealt with the fraud and abuse.
All I can say is you need to either cut back on the meds or increase them because something's wrong. Speaking of Ford, Henry Ford, the original Henry Ford,
right,
that when some people criticized him for overpaying his factory workers, he said, you don't get it. He said, I want people to be able to afford to buy my cars, and I have to pay my employees a decent wage, and I hope it spreads. And you see, that's an intelligent, rational, Christian approach.
Yeah. By the way, he brought most of the Muslims into Michigan, were brought in by Ford. Did you know that?
To the Republic.
No,
So, Tim, what other major issues do you want to talk about today that you see on your
there's this really interesting story I've linked on my news blog, Europe Today. Some gang members in Chicago are saying that for some time now they have been finding in alleys early in the morning in black areas of Chicago cases of military arms and ammunition and the like. I'm talking about fully automatic weapons and the like, just left there to be found. Dear old George Soros, who is a front man for the Rothschilds, has been stirring stuff up all over the country and all over the world.
So why don't we redub his name, the Earth-based version of the Emperor Palpatine? Yeah, we got a lot of squeaky noises going on. It's like you have a squeegee cleaning the windows. So we'll reconnect, Tim. Your phone provider must be not providing a very good quality service, because this has happened before. So isn't that interesting? So Melton Wolf found the signs of this test that doesn't exist, that Dr. Bardak is reporting. Another issue that is on your blog is expecting a third election in Spain. Any hope of Rajoy securing a coalition or even a minority government via abstention flew out the window yesterday. Rajoy had secured the backing of Ciudadanos, and on the premise Rajoy would clean up corruption, but moments later, the last corruption vote, which failed, Rajoy's economy minister attempted to appoint a corrupt and disgraced colleague to a lucrative position at the World Bank. Wow. I mean, what do you think, Tim? This is just getting so overhanded that they don't even show the respect to lie properly to the public, do they?
Well, some of the hacked emails now that are coming out are basically showing what people paid for, these offices, ambassadorships, positions at the UN, and key government positions.
The Democratic Party, if they had any sense whatsoever, and if they're listening right now, you need to immediately pull Hillary, because she's not a valid candidate medically or ethically or even, in any way, shape, or form in her previous policies, and drop in a candidate, not Joe Biden. I mean, Smiling Joe's like the Cheshire Cat. The man has no guts, no backbone, and no intellect. And then put a candidate in that can at least be an opposition to President Trump, because Trump is going to win. I can tell you, with the missteps of the Democratic Party and their failed attempts to try to buy votes and raise billions of dollars to do attack ads, because they don't have any policies. I don't see any policies.
Well, I'll tell you, if at the end of the day, Hillary somehow miraculously wins, we will know that they stole the election.
Well, we won't accept her as president. I won't. She won't be my president. If she wins because of corruption and Diebold and voter fraud, she's not going to be my president either way. And a lot of Americans will basically have that attitude. I expect if they do steal the election for what I call Cain and not Abel, most likely you'll see Texas in the next 2 to 4 years leave, which means America will break up into a number of sub-republics, and we'll have an internal, in a sense, geopolitical civil war. The Rothschilds wanted that. That's why they supported both sides in the Civil War. Right.
That's why they helped to set up the Civil War and egg things on.
Well, they think America might be more digestible to a New World Order in a trade zone if there's 6 sub-republics of America, which a Russian geopolitical analyst published about 6 years ago. That's what he predicted was going to happen, especially with the first 2 years of the abomination policies, which are basically to deconstruct America. Obama's not a failure. He's a massive demonic success. He's a very evil man who's not made one misstep in making bad decisions in every front in American life, finances, and geopolitical policy.
He's done what they told him to do.
Right. He's a yes man. Or yes, I call him a meat. I call him a meat puppet. Man. He's a meat puppet. How's that?
What the
you like that term, meat puppet?
Yeah. What the term the tribe uses is he's a front man, and they hide behind people like him to do their dirty work.
That's too nice.
And of course,
a meat puppet is.
Go ahead.
A meat puppet is much more appropriate than a front man. Front man means he has some autonomy. It's like that song, when they have Pinocchio and Geppetto, the Disney movie about Pinocchio, and they talk about him dancing, and they have no strings to hold me down and so on. These politicians have lots of strings. They have an avatared central nucleus control of their motor nuclei in their brain by these demonic overlords, and it's not just on a geopolitical level, it's on a spiritual level. So we're dealing with a form of geopolitical possession, if you want to call it, of these people like Hillary Clinton and Obama. They're literally controlled from the dark side, literally from the devil's cave.
If you think about it, I mean, there's a lot of rotten people in this world, and we've all known rotten people. But when you're talking about causing wars that literally millions of people are killed and maimed in, when we're talking about ruining the country, 100 million people out of work, roughly the same number of men out of work right now in America that were out of work in the Great Depression, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. I got a new term. That's not just rotten. That's
way beyond rotten.
Well, I got a new term for you. Human beings aren't capable of this evil. I just think that the flesh of people like Obama and Hillary are just wetware for demonic entities and geopolitical monsters. They're just wetware. In other words, they're human flesh and neurons that are under the control of globalist maniacs and demonic powers of darkness. And it says in the book of, in the Bible, it says, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and power and spiritual wickedness in high places. We've got to take the Bible seriously. We're not wrestling against an intellectual argument or an emotional argument like you hear from Bernie Sanders and all the emotional young people that don't have a clue, that want everything free. It's like, I want my Obama phone. Well, the fact is, like Jesse Waters from Waters World says, and the kids were saying, well, we like Bernie because he's going to give us free education, free this and that. He said, but who's going to pay for it? And then Jesse, being very sarcastic and quick, says, I think maybe I'm going to pay for it. And the kids there just are blank-faced. They don't have a response of, now, I want to reduce the cost of education. I know how to do it. I know how to reduce the cost of health care. And I'm putting position papers and videos on it in each of these things in the next few weeks. And you're going to see a whole flood of solutions. And I've challenged people out there, and I've said this over and again, but I have very few takers. They say, no, Deagle, you can't do that. Yes, I can. You can present to me any problem of any situation in any country on earth, medically, geopolitically, militarily, strategically, scientific, and I will give you either a full answer on air or a framework to find the answer with our colleagues instantly. And I challenge anybody out there to challenge me on that, because I'm a praying, godly man. And 90% of the time, by the way, I'm lost until I pray and God gives me the inspiration to know where to look for the answer. And most of the time, the answer is intuitively right there in our face, or it's already published. But people don't want to apprehend the answer because they're full of evil. They're blinded spiritually, so their intellect and their emotions can't even respond appropriately to the danger.
And Dr. Bill, you're smarter than the average bear, but let me tell you, solutions are out there. Part of it is you just have to want to look.
Well,
and
Tim,
you say, turn towards God. Let me give you an example. A few years before I was born, Germany had lost the First World War. They were absolutely desperate. They had hyperinflation. They even had women or young girls of nice families prostituting themselves so they could have enough food to eat. I mean, they were really desperate. And they had a man come in, Adolf Hitler, who is no hero of mine. I mean, he's a monster. But he managed.
It was his financial advisor that did it. It was his financial advisor that did it.
Well, whoever did it, they turned Germany around. In 2 years, it went from the sick man of Europe to the industrial powerhouse of Europe.
Let me explain the spiritual technology, which I can teach to anybody if they contact me. Number one, I receive 10% of my answers from my own intellect. 90% I receive in prayer, and most of the time, instantly, while I'm praying, while I'm talking to the person, either on a consult or presenting it on radio, God will give me the answer. He even tells me where the search words I need to do to search for a topic or an issue or whatever. So I want people to know, in order for us to battle with evil, we have to walk supernaturally with God. And the solution is not us. No matter how smart we are, our IQ is X, God's IQ is infinite. He is omniscient. And if we hear and do God's will, He will tell us what the solution and pathway is to do His will, which is the only way or definition of good. And if you don't do good, God is going to bring judgment on you. And the problem is most people, and I have to say this, we have two candidates. Both are high-level Masons or involved with the dark side. Donald Trump is a Scottish Rite, Royal Arch and Mason. Now, he considers himself a white hat and wants to do right, and he's a patriot, and I support him. But we need to understand he's not doing what is right based on a prayer relationship with the Most High God. He's a baby Christian, and I believe he's still a Christian. But most of his policies are going to be led by other people, or his own idea of what he thinks needs to be done is right. Now, that's a grave and dangerous position to be in, because your intellect will always lead you to do things that are not in God's will. So even if you have good intentions, and as they say, the pathway to hell is paved with good intentions, right, you have to realize his affiliates or his own analysis of the situation. So when he says, for example, that 9/11 at the memorial was an act of terrorism by Saudis, and 2 months ago the Saudis had stated clearly that the 9/11 event was a self-inflicted wound by America on America. So even the Saudis that are Muslims are coming straight and telling us, no, don't blame us, and don't claim pilots, which are still flying or now retired, did it because 13 of them were Saudis. You did it to yourself for geopolitical and satanic reasons. So when you have Muslims state that America is a great Satan, guess what? It's one of the few times that I have to agree with Islam. America is both the daughter of Babylon and the daughter of Zion, which means a nation that can repent and turn back to God like ancient Israel. But America has not repented. And the repentance starts in the house of the Lord, which is the churches, which is why I can't, except for maybe the Continuing Church of God, I cannot go to any church, because they're vile. They will not accept God in their life here on earth, or deal with things like abortion and eugenics like Obamacare. They will not deal with not teaching the gospel and the prophetic word. They will not deal with the policies of our country, which are violent and dangerous, doing regime change like in Syria, which result in 500,000 people dead because of American foreign policy that Hillary and Obama did. So because our churches are not repenting, and we have to be salt and light, said what good is a church unless it is like a Laodicean church, it's fit to be thrown out? We have two churches now in our world. The Philadelphian church, which is the bride, getting ready for Jesus, and we have the Laodicean church that are absent without leave. Spiritually, they call themselves Christians. They have a Christian ease stamp on them, but in the battle of lightness and dark, they're lost in space. And that includes, by the way, Mr. Trump. So hopefully he will repent and pray more, and God will inspire him to do the right thing, which is only God's will, not his own or his advisors. Because he's got a lot of men around him. So. There's a lot of men around him, including let me finish that. Newt Gingrich is a good example of an evil man. And the mayor of New York City, Giuliani covered up 9/11. We need to understand all these people.
Let me tell you a little story about Giuliani. There was a fundraising about 2 months ago in Evansville. It was at a fellow's house, his $10 million mansion. And it was $10,000 a couple, and if you wanted to FaceTime with President, or I started to call him President Trump too, it was, a bigger donation. And they were raising money for the campaign. Well, Giuliani flew down on Trump's big jet, his 757, at this big mansion. Giuliani went to the bathroom and I managed to stop the toilet up. So I would say, yes, he is full of you-know-what.
Or he was before he arrives there.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, he might have had the geopolitical...
literally, I had this inside information on this. I had
right, yeah.
But, it was...
You have the whole plumbing truth, in other words, the whole plumbing truth.
Yeah, the whole plumbing truth. But, yeah, he... Can you imagine that?
Well, the problem is, and I'm going to say this to people, don't be deceived. I'm a Trump supporter, and I believe he's a baby Christian. But you have to understand, when he's doing Masonic signs, and so is his daughter, Ivanka, these people are deep into Masons. And if you look at his apartment, it's full of pictures of Apollo. He believes he's the Apollonic representation of a Masonic order here on Earth. He's in the 66th floor of his building. You have to understand, when he gives out deals, like with New York City, to be able to put his apartment up at that height, he had a special deal. So he has the backers of very powerful, wealthy people. So you have to understand, although Trump is going to do a lot of good things, which are, quote, good in his own eyes, it's not necessarily the will of the Most High God. So whatever compromising position he gets in geopolitical policy or economic policy, you have to understand that Trump is not following the will of the Most High God letter by letter. Hopefully we will be praying for him to start to do so, and that he will get good advisors, not bad ones around him like Chris Christie, is another globalist. So is Giuliani. So is many of these other people, including Marco Rubio, who is a Bush proxy, and even Ted Cruz. And Ted Cruz, of course, is trying to stop the internationalization of the Internet because he wants to maintain a position that he's so-called independent, and he's not. So virtually all these politicians are high-level Masons in every oak, in every country, including Italy. And although Trump is a white hat and he wants to do, quote, good because he's a patriot, remember, Trump's main problem is he's a narcissistic person who wants to be the white knight that comes in and saves the nation, and he's doing a good job. And he's got good policies.
Do that, but he's
got good policies. But the problem is, you see, when I deal with someone on a spiritual level and I ask them, not ASK but AXE questions, I dissect not only their intellectual and emotional basis for the decisions and their world viewpoint, I dissect their spiritual word. And because I have second sight and second voice, I can actually discern what their soul is saying. And it's not just reverse speech, because I understand reverse speech. It's that I discern that Trump is a man who's a baby Christian. We need to pray he becomes more mature, because he's not. He's not more mature. Now Hillary is clearly a high-level satanic witch. In fact, one of the most devilish things about her is she gets off on child snuff, which is the thing they converted her when she was a child, is watching child snuff, where they killed children on an obsidian altar and then literally dissect them and eat their flesh and drink their blood. And people say, no, Dr. Deagle, that's a conspiracy theory. I said, I'm sorry, I know from natural and classified and supernatural sources that this woman has been sacrificed for her family to the dark side.
I don't have those sources, but I have to tell you, just as an analyst, I have to say that the behavior of some of these people, including Hillary, is so over the top, it's got to be demonic.
But be honest about Trump, too. Pray for him. Pray for the man.
Yeah, he needs help.
Yeah, pray for him that he... So, Tim, I guess what my final point is that we need to be an offense to those who are lying to themselves and each other. We need to also call it straight. I'm a Trump supporter, but I'm praying for the man that he hears more from God, and I do believe he's a Christian, but he's a baby one. We need to understand when he says things like the 9/11 memorial that a terrorist organization did it when it was a war game simulation, and I met with the FBI and CDC directors 6 months before, and they told me about war games in New York City. 6 months before, they talked about the ideas of micronukes and the release of anthrax. And when I finished my line of questions, you could tell these guys said, I'm glad you're one of us. In other words, they looked at me, eyeball to hairy eyeballs, they say in the military, thinking, I hope we didn't open our... Because I fired questions at them. I did what I call axing them questions. And I asked probably 100 questions to get where I found with these guys over a couple hours of lunch with the FBI and CDC directors and the head of the infectious disease department, because we did a war game simulation at hospitals around Denver. So no one else is releasing this information on Earth that I'm releasing. Nobody else. And I want people to understand this. I'm a witness against not only these evil powers like Islam and the globalists, but I'm against the evil actions of America. America has to repent. And it has to start from the leadership that even if he's a good man, he needs to repent every day, to come on his knees or on his face down before the Most High God, to beg God to give him the right wisdom to do the right decisions for America in the future. Not just what his good advisors tell him that may pull America toward a very dangerous precipice of things that's not good, or to ignore things. Now, most of the things I've heard so far are pretty darn good policies. But to just so-called replace health care with another plan...
Let me interject something here. Okay, he wants to build a wall. Well, of course, I've talked about a wall on our southern border for decades. But, the Mexicans are supposedly vehemently against it. It's just come out. The Mexicans have a wall on their southern border that they've been building because they're being flooded by refugees, economic refugees, what do you want to call them, from Honduras, Guatemala, etc. So
I think they have
when it comes to protecting themselves, the Mexicans don't have a problem with a wall.
Here's the point. With a $68 billion deficit, we don't need to argue over who's going to pay it. When you got that kind of leverage to a country like Mexico, you can simply do financial angling, and they're going to pay for the damn wall. Okay, anybody that we call the financial smarts of Trump knows you don't need to keep arguing over who's going to pay for it. You just need to say, we have financial mechanisms that are going to force them to pay a part of every transaction, even money that speaks.
700 overseas bases. We don't need 700 overseas bases. Get rid of half of them and use a tiny part of that money and build the damn wall.
No, I'm not talking about that. No, you missed my point. Mexico will pay for the wall of the $68 billion in trade and financial arrangements, which will make them pay for the wall. Now, I agree about the bases.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that Trump's policy on focusing these things just opens them up to arguments over who's going to pay for it. It was already legislated in 2005, and Hillary voted for it. They just did a sloppy job, and they took old, wire from Vietnam era and put it up as a fence, which is stupid. They didn't put cybernetic things. Trump wants to add 6,000 more employees. Kudos, Trump. He's President Trump, but I'm praying for this man that the spirit of the Most High God comes to him. I don't want him to be a Saul, which a taller, handsome leader, a king of Israel, which God warned against. I don't want him to be a Saul. I want him to be a David that hears and does the will of the Most High, knows he can only sin against God, not against man or other nations or the biosphere. He can only sin against the Most High God.
Amen.
And so he needs to be humble. Stay humble, President Trump.